Welcome back. In the previous video, we took care of having an aiming pose for the pistol. So now when we're aiming, the pistol looks correct. Now, I mentioned that you can do this for each weapon type, and I'd like to, just before we continue with our pistol, let's take a look at the assault rifle aiming pose. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up the assault rifle, switch to the assault rifle, and aim, and there's something I'm not quite happy with. You can see that the thumb is kind of sticking out, and that works if we're in the SMG aiming pose, because that's kind of how she looks when she's aiming the SMG, but I don't think this looks quite right with the AR. I think she should be holding the AR by the barrel, or at least by the, I'm not sure what the gun terminology is, but I'm talking about this part here. So I think she should have her fingers wrapped around this. So let's go ahead and create an aiming pose for the AR. Now here in Shooter NMBP, I'm in the aiming pose state, and we have this play aiming pose rotated animation. I'm going to double click on that, and here we see Bellica in the aiming pose, and this is designed for the SMG. Now, of course, we're using Fabric IK to place her hand right here, but the fingers are sort of out of whack for the assault rifle. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this animation. So let's find aiming pose rotated. Here it is. I'm going to right click and duplicate this. And I'm going to call this one aiming pose underscore AR. And I'm going to open aiming pose AR. And here we have the aiming pose for the AR. Now I'm going to just go over to the left hand here and take a look. So one of the things I'm not happy with is the thumb and the pinky. She's kind of doing the little surfer sign, you know, hang tight kind of thing. So we're going to actually close the thumb and the pinky a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and click pause and make sure I'm at the 0 frame. And for the left hand, I'm going to take the thumb 01L and rotate it a bit. Actually, that's not quite the thumb joint I want. I think I want thumb 02L. I'm going to move that in a little. And thumb 03L, I'm going to move that in. So now she's kind of bending the thumb in. Let's do the pinky as well. So I'm going to take pinky 02L and move it in, and pinky 03L and move that in. Basically just tweaking this until it sort of looks like it should. All right, I'm going to go ahead and leave that, and I'm going to click plus key to add a key and click apply. Now let's take a look at how this looks by going into Shooter NMBP and taking our aiming pose AR, dragging that in, and I'm just going to plug this into the false pose, so we're just using this if we're not using a pistol. Let's go to Window and Viewports, Viewport 2, Alt P to play, and pick up, not the pistol, the AR. I'm going to switch to the AR and aim, and I think the thumb is still sticking out a bit too much. So let's go back to the aiming pose AR and close the thumb again a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to add plus and apply to get a key. And now I can go to Viewports, Viewport 2, Alt P, pick up the AR, and aim. And that looks a bit better. Now, I think the hand is a little bit offset, so that's something that we can adjust in the Fabric IK. So I'm going to do that too. Let's go to Shooter NMBP and back out to the anim graph. I'm going to go ahead and use the cached pose Fabric AR and plug that into the output pose and compile. That way I can come up here to the fabric for the Fabric AR and adjust it. So I'm going to make this viewport bigger, and so we'll move it down just a bit, not too much, but just a little bit. We'll save. And let's try this out. So we'll grab an AR, and I think that's looking a little bit better. So this is a tweaking game. You're going to go in and tweak all the different positions and values, and that's going to determine how it looks in the end, how much you tweak it here and there. Now, the final thing we need to do before we wrap this up is we need to go back up here into our aiming upper body, into our aiming pose, and instead of blend poses by bool, now we can blend based on weapon type. So drag off of equipped weapon type and type blend poses E weapon and blend poses E weapon type. So we're going to get rid of this equal to pistol node and blend poses by bool, and instead we're going to blend based on weapon type now. And we're going to right click and add a pin for submachine gun, assault rifle, and pistol. Now, aiming pose rotated will be the default pose, and we're also going to use that for submachine gun pose. So we're going to copy it and plug that in, and we're going to use aiming pose AR for the assault rifle pose and aiming pose pistol for the pistol pose. And now we can have a aiming pose for each type of gun. And I'm going to plug that in, compile, save, and now we have aiming poses for each of the different types of weapons. So just to do a final test before we wrap it up, I'm going to pick up the pistol, pick up the AR, and now we have 3 different weapons. We can switch between them, and they all look correct, and we can aim. Here's aiming for the SMG, here's aiming for the pistol, and here's aiming for the AR. All right, we now have aiming for each weapon. We'll see you in the next video.